Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Deggy again, back with yet another Disney Lorcana card of the day. Now today's card of the day is going to be Aurora, Dreaming Guardian. Aurora is a 5-cost Sapphire character. She costs 5 ink, but she is inkable. So again, that means you can place her into your inkwell. She has 3 strength, 5 willpower, and she quests for 2 lore. She has like 1.5 abilities. She does have shift 3, so she's a shiftable character. And what that means is for 3 resources, you can play her on top of another Aurora, or you could pay 5 resources or 5 ink to play her by herself. She has one ability, like one actual ability, and it's very good. It's called Protective Embrace, and it reads, your other characters gain ward. And ward means your opponents can't choose them except a challenge. So if a character was exerted, your opponent can use their characters to challenge into them. But a character with ward cannot be targeted with spells like Dragonfire or Let It Go, and also by character abilities like the Genie. When he comes into play, you can't choose a character with ward, and also you can't like exert an Elsa and target a character with ward. So just so we know what ward does. I should also note that Aurora is a super rare, which is a step above rare, but a step below legendary. So she might be a little harder to obtain, but she's also a princess, which is kind of a big deal because she combos well with Moana. I think she's really good. And she's been out for a long time. Absolutely really good card. Just in numerous ways, right? There's 2 main features I want to talk about with Aurora. One is obviously more common, and one is not as common. I will just say, get off the bat, and this isn't one of the 2 things, she does combo well with Moana. Moana does, ready your other princesses. If you have a Moana and an Aurora Dreaming Guardian in play with a couple other princesses, you can quest with all the princesses, then quest with Moana. Your other princesses become unexerted, and then not only are they unexerted so they can't be challenged by your opponent's characters, but now your opponent can't target those characters due to this Aurora's ability. That's very strong. It does require a few cards, right? I mean, this Aurora does cost 5 resources. Moana costs 5 resources. But once you get this engine going, you're going to be gaining a lot of lore very quickly, and your opponent's going to have a hard time stopping it. So I guess maybe that is a bit of my first point. She's able to protect your other characters from your opponent's effects, and that is really good. She does combo very well with those princesses, as I had mentioned. She does protect those princesses, but she also combos very well with higher costed characters. If you do get her down early enough, kind of, leave her alone, your opponent doesn't mess with her. Maybe they don't use removal, or they don't have removal, or maybe they choose not to use removal on her. By the time you're able to play bigger characters, maybe like that 8-cost Mickey Mouse, maybe 9-cost Maleficent, any really big dangerous character, well, now your opponent can't target them with their removal spells because Aurora is in play. If you get 2 Auroras in play, your opponent can't target any of your characters, and that's pretty solid. That's why you almost don't want to ink her, especially early game, because getting 2 of them in play just protects everybody. If you only have 1 Aurora in play, your opponent is just going to focus on her and use all of their removal on her, I suppose. So once you get to like turn 5 or so, you got to keep in mind that your opponent has access to stuff like Dragonfire and Let It Go, not to mention, myriad of other cards I'm sure we're going to see. If your opponent's playing like Steel, they're going to have cards like Fire the Cannons and Smash, and in combination, those 2 cards would take out Aurora. So when she comes down, your opponent is going to try to remove her so that they can use their removal cards on your other characters. So it's kind of like a catch-22. 2 Auroras in play means that both Aurora, I guess each other is protected. So your opponent can't choose either one because each one gives the other one ward. So that's pretty handy. The downside being is she becomes vulnerable when you quest, and you need to quest to win the game. It would feel bad not to quest with Aurora because she does have 2 lore. That's a very respectable amount. She might actually have like a really good strength, I guess, like her true strength might be in a princess deck in combination with Moana. If you have an Aurora in play and a Moana, both of those are dangerous characters, for your opponent. Moana questing for 3 is bad enough, but she's going to exert or unexert your own characters, so that protects them. And then Aurora is protecting your characters with Ward. Having her in play alongside a Moana means your opponent's going to have to use more resources to get rid of all of these cards. But by protecting your card that can quest for 3 lore, getting a few uses out of her before she gets taken out by removal, or I guess a couple challenges or whatever, that's going to be really good for you. Just gaining lore quickly, with the princess deck, that's going to be a really good strategy. I think that's going to be one of the most powerful decks, and Aurora is definitely going to fit into that. Now, I do want to point out my second point though. Aurora, as of right now, she is an early game shifter. She can come down on your 3rd turn and instantly start questing or instantly start challenging. She has a very respectable stat line to do either one of those things. And at that point, your opponent isn't going to have a lot of resources in play or even in hand to deal with her. And, the worst case scenario is you're playing against a steel deck that could have access to, say, Smash or Fire the Cannons. But if they cast Smash on like their 3rd turn or even 4th turn, that doesn't leave much resources open for them to do anything else. Even if they do cast Smash, if they want to remove her without a challenge, they would have to cast Smash and then cast Fire the Cannons. That's down 2 cards. They didn't put any characters in play, but yes, you did lose your Aurora, but your opponent did lose a little bit of resources. She can be an early game aggressive card, gaining that 2 lore very early, protecting your other characters that come down after her or before her can be really solid. You're probably only going to have, if at best, 1 other character when she comes down, because on your turn 1 you could play, say, Flounder. On your 2nd turn you play the 2-cost Aurora. On your 3rd turn you shift this Aurora on top of the 2-cost Aurora. Then you can start questing or start challenging if that's what you want to do. Now then, on your turn 3 or turn 4, you could play like another Jasmine, or not another Jasmine, but you could play Jasmine, you could play Maleficent, Detective Mickey, try to get another, Aurora into play. I think that an early game Aurora should not be underestimated, for sure. She's going to mess up your opponent's plans. She's going to get you some lore. She's going to take characters out. Like, it's pretty good. It's in a way she's going to protect future characters because your opponent is going to use their resources to try to take out your Aurora. If I am on the other side of a table and I see my opponent is questing with a Flounder, and then they quest with a shifted Aurora, I'm not going to be looking at the Flounder. I'm going to want to use my characters to challenge into this Aurora, which kind of leaves Flounder to do his thing and to do some questing. So you get some extra uses out of him in that regard. And that's not counting any other 1-cost Sapphire cards I'm sure we'll see in the future. As far as characters go, we only have Flounder as a turn 1 play, so he's my example. But in the future, we might see some really awesome turn 1 plays for Sapphire, which might make this, really valuable. So I just wanted to point out that Aurora can come down and be actually oddly aggressive instead of being a more defensive character. By playing her on your 3rd turn, you're going to have the best stat character at that point. There are no characters that would have a better stat line than Aurora at that point. And with her 5 willpower, she's going to be very difficult to take down. So maybe an early game Aurora can help set the tone of the game. You can put her down and just prepare for like bigger drops, in the future or whatever. Overall, how do I feel about Aurora? So, oh, I already discussed that, but like, what would I give her? What would I give her for a rating? She is very, very good. I don't think she's bad in any way, shape, or form. I would give her a solid 9 out of 10, and that's played either by herself for her cost of 5 or being shifted. I think there's strengths, in both regards. I do think that her strength does lie in the princess deck. I think that's where she gets her most use, because she is able to quest and then just be readied by the Moana, and she's also able to protect your other princesses from removal. I think that's really, really good synergy, and you're just playing her, and you are able to then quest with her, but still use her ability and keep her safe. In a Sapphire, like Steel deck, maybe a deck meant to ramp into bigger characters. You know, you get your resources into play with Detective Mickey or One Jump Ahead. Aurora can help protect those bigger threats. And Steel right now has like Simba. Cerberus is super good, you know, as an early game like ramp card. And we also just received, as of today, we got revealed a new Maui card who's an 8 cost, 8 strength, 8 willpower character who can quest for 3 lore and has no other abilities, and he's inkable. That's pretty hefty. That's ramping into him. That's pretty good, but you're going to want to keep him protected because he's going to be removed in some way, shape, or form. So getting an Aurora down before playing these bigger characters, that's going to be really good. That protects those characters and at least lets them stick around for a turn so that on your next turn they can do some crazy things. And that's just with Steel. Obviously, Sapphire is really good with, say, Ruby, and there's some really good Ruby cards like Heroic Outlaw Aladdin, and we have the 8 cost Mickey Mouse, and how can we forget about Monstrous Dragon Maleficent? She protects all of your characters. So she is absolutely fantastic. I'm giving her a 9 out of 10. I don't think like she's absolutely like broken or whatever. I think Heroic Outlaw Aladdin is one of the best cards ever. He's my fun 10 out of 10. But, you know, realistically, you know, this Aurora is a solid 9 out of 10. I actually don't really see any downside except maybe that she's a super rare. So that might be a little harder to obtain. And she does get targeted with removal, like instantly. As soon as she comes down, your opponent's going to be like, how am I getting this card off the field? She's absolutely fantastic, and she is inkable. So, you know, why would you want to ink her? I know she is really good, but the option is still there. And, you know, if you need to play other cards, you can put her into your inkwell. So she's supporting your team in that regard too. So solid 9 out of 10 card. I think Aurora should be almost an auto include in like every Sapphire deck, especially in the first set. Just being able to protect your characters is just absolutely fantastic. And who knows, you know, my idea of like kind of like an aggressive, you know, Sapphire deck, that might be a thing. It's very possible that maybe you can play Sapphire and Steel, but your highest costed card is like Aurora and Cerberus, and you just try to quest like really quickly, be really aggressive, because you do have Jasmine and the Sapphire Maleficent at 4 cost and Jasmine's 3 cost, but they quest for 2 lore as well. You also have the little, what we call baby Aurora, the 2 cost Aurora. She also quests for 2 lore, so you might be able just to flood your board with these really good value Sapphire characters, gain a lot of lore very quickly, and your opponent's going to have a hard time dealing with it because your Aurora is protecting those characters from removal and targeting effects. I think she's good. I really like her. Definitely one of my favorite Sapphire cards. I'm really hoping to maybe put a deck together with her. You know, Sapphire Ruby, I'm eyeing that one. That one looks pretty good, but who knows, right? Who knows? So 9 out of 10. Absolutely love Aurora. She's held up, you know, through all the reveals so far, and she's only getting better. She can only get better. But hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You stay safe out there, make good decisions, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.